Emily didn't remember the last time her mother touched her. Not in the simple ways other mothers did. No casual hugs, no soft hands brushing her hair back, no quiet reassurance in moments of doubt. Victoria wasn't cold. That would have been easier to understand. She was selective. Everything she gave had intention. Everything she withheld had purpose. As a child, Emily used to sit at the edge of the living room, watching her mother entertain guests. Victoria never tried to be the center of attention, yet somehow, she always was. People leaned toward her when she spoke, paused when she looked at them, listened like what she said mattered more than anything else in the room. Emily noticed something even then. Her mother didn't chase attention. She pulled it, quietly, effortlessly. Why do people like you so much? Emily once asked when she was 13. Victoria didn't look up from her book. They don't like me, she said calmly. They like how they feel around me. Emily didn't understand. Not then, but years later as she would. Because Daniel felt it too. After that first dinner, something had shifted inside him. He still loved Emily, at least. He believed he did. She was kind, warm, open in a way that made life feel easier. But Victoria made life feel clear. And clarity is addictive. Their second interaction wasn't planned. At least, not for Emily. Daniel stopped by earlier. Victoria mentioned casually one afternoon. Emily looked up from her phone. He did. Victoria nodded. He helped me with the router. Emily smiled. That's nice of him, but something about the way her mother said it, too neutral, too smooth, left a faint, uncomfortable echo in her chest. What did you guys talk about? Emily asked. Victoria poured herself tea before answering. Nothing important. A pause. Mostly you. That should have reassured her. Instead, I didn't, because Victoria never said nothing important unless it was. Daniel didn't mention it. Not that day. Not the next. And that silence became its own kind of truth. Weeks passed. The lines blurred further. Daniel started staying later when he visited. Not always with Emily. Sometimes conversations drifted, split. Emily would be in her room and hear them talking in the kitchen. Not laughing, not joking, talking, deep, slow, like time had softened around them. Once, she stood by the door, listening. Not intentionally, just unable to move away. Do you think people change? Daniel asked. Victoria didn't answer immediately. Emily could picture her perfectly, leaning slightly back, studying him. No, she said eventually. People reveal more of who they already are. Silence. And what if you don't like what you see? Daniel asked. Victoria's voice lowered. Then you decide whether you're strong enough to leave. Emily stepped away from the door, her heart beating faster than it should have. That night, she couldn't sleep. Not because of what was said, but because of how it was said. And how Daniel listened, like it mattered more than anything Emily had ever told him. The change didn't explode. It spread, like a crack under glass. Quiet, slow, inevitable. Daniel still held her hand, still kissed her, still said I love you, but something behind those words was fading. And something else, something Emily couldn't reach, was growing. One evening, she confronted him. Not angrily, not dramatically, just honestly. Do you ever feel like we're not the same as before? Daniel froze for a fraction of a second, too fast for most people to notice. Not for her. I don't know, he said. That answer hurt more than a lie. What does that mean? She asked quietly. He ran a hand through his hair. It just means things change. Because of what? She pressed. He hesitated. And in that hesitation, Victoria existed. I don't know, he repeated. But this time it sounded like avoidance. Emily nodded slowly, like she understood, like she accepted it. But inside something began to break. Not loudly, not all at once. Just small fractures, spreading. Victoria, meanwhile, never pushed. That was the difference. She didn't chase Daniel. She created space and let him step into it. You don't have to explain yourself to me, she told him once. That sentence stayed with him longer than anything else she ever said. Because Emily always wanted to understand him. Victoria made him feel like he already was understood. And that illusion was stronger than truth. The night everything collapsed didn't feel important at first. Emily had plans, dinner with friends, a chance to escape the quiet tension that had been building for weeks. She left the house distracted, restless, Victoria noticed. Of course she did. You seem unsettled, she said as Emily grabbed her coat. I'm fine, Emily replied quickly. Victoria tilted her head slightly. Are you? Emily didn't answer. She just left. But she didn't stay out long. Something pulled her back. Not logic. Not reason. Instinct. The kind you only recognize after it's too late. The house was dim when she returned. Lights low. Silence heavy. Many voices. Familiar. Close. To close. Her chest tightened. She walked slowly, each step heavier than the last. And then she saw them. Not touching. Not crossing a line that could be easily defined, but standing inside a space that didn't belong to her anymore. Daniel's voice was low, soft. Victoria stood still, listening, watching, the way she always did right before something became hers. Emily felt the world tilt, and suddenly everything made sense. Every silence, every hesitation, every unanswered question. It had all been leading here. Victoria looked up first. Emily, she said calmly, you're home early. And that calmness, that complete absence of guilt, shattered something deeper than betrayal ever could. Because this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. A slow, deliberate, perfectly controlled choice. What is this? Emily whispered. Her voice didn't sound like her own. Daniel stepped back. Too late. It's not a but he stopped. Because it was. Victoria stepped forward slightly. Not defensive. Not apologetic. Certain it's exactly what you think, she said. Emily shook her head. No, you don't get to say that like it's normal. Victoria's expression didn't change. Normal is relative. That was the moment Emily stopped seeing her as her mother and started seeing her as something else. Something colder. Something sharper. Something capable of this. You took him, Emily said again. Victoria's gaze softened out just slightly. No, she replied. I revealed something to him. Emily laughed. A broken, disbelieving sound. And that makes it okay. Victoria stepped closer. I didn't make him choose anything, she said quietly. And then as she looked at Daniel, did I? Silence, heavy, unavoidable. Daniel couldn't answer. And that silence was louder than any confession. Emily felt something inside her collapse completely. Not just her relationship, not just her trust. Her understanding of everything, because the truth wasn't simple. Victoria didn't steal him. Daniel didn't fully leave. They met somewhere in between, in a place Emily didn't even know existed. And that was the worst part. Months later, Emily would sit alone in her new apartment. Quiet walls, cold light, replaying everything. Not trying to understand what happened, but trying to understand when it started. Was it that first dinner? That first question, that first look, or had it always been inevitable? Because Victoria didn't break things, she uncovered them. And sometimes what she uncovered was already slipping away. Emily never spoke to her again, not because she couldn't, but because she finally understood something her mother had always known. Some people don't need to chase what they want. They just wait. And eventually, it comes to them. But the cost is everything left behind. And Emily was what got left behind.